Dobro dojdete.
Znači, dobre, dojdovte.
Dobro dojdete.
Gee, if you cannot say it, I'll say it. Just, this is like a small, it's a nice way to start the show.
Dobro dojdete. Welcome to the Balkan Talk Show. You are joining in with Travelsofmozzy and Pristina. We're going to be your hosts for today. This is the pilot. It's our first episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. The main topic today is actually to get to know me, Travelsofmozzy. Who am I? What have I been doing the last couple of 4 years in the Balkan? And as we start off, the whole idea with this podcast is to talk about how my experience has been in the Balkan, any tips and tricks in terms of, travels, places to eat, and etc. So anything you would like to talk about also, feel free to leave it in the comments. Anything is not off topic. Whatever you want to listen, we are here to deliver that. You want to do a quick intro, Percy?
Yes, so small introduction actually. We've been around for a while. The last few years we've been traveling together, we've been working on projects together, promoting local businesses, cuisine, and different environments that we've been visiting. I own a cultural center, a museum, and a tourist information office at the city of Ohrid. And I've been managing Mozzy for the last year around the city and the area. Besides that, we've been friends for almost 2 years through a mutual friend, JR. Big shout out to JR. So our main guest this first episode is gonna be Mozzy. So he will be giving an introduction about how he actually managed to be where he is right now, how actually he promoted the country in such a beautiful and quality way towards the people, not only from Norway, but also for the people all over the world and all of his followers. A little bit more about that, he will tell you now, and...
Well, there you go. That's Pristina, and now let's jump into the episode. Who is Travelsofmozzy, right? For those who does not know me, my journey in the Balkan actually started in 2020, during the COVID time. I did not actually have a lot of plans back then. My first initial thought was, let me go to the Balkan. But, fun fact, I did not know anything about the Balkan. Nothing. Zero. The only thing I knew about is one destination, which was Split in Croatia, because that's where mostly the Norwegians. So I'm actually raised in Norway, and most of the Norwegians, when they go to the Balkan area, they specifically go to Split, as that's what they know. So when I first went to Split, actually, I got a good image of it, because it's a lot of palms, a lot of young tourists. There's a lot of things happening over there. So I landed in Split with my boy Usman, which is also from Norway. And when we landed, we went out, we got to know a lot of people, but we met another African dude. I did not expect to meet any other African dudes in that area. And he told us, actually, listen, you think Split is good? You haven't lived, my friend. I was like, what? Why? What do you mean? He said, go to Belgrade, Serbia. The first thing that came to my mind was, Serbia, hold on man, 1 second. Are you sure about that? Because isn't there a lot of racism, a lot of hate towards our people, being African? And he told us, no, it's actually a very good place to be. And I was very hesitant. I'm not going to lie to you, Pristina, I was very, very hesitant about that. So initially, my friend Osman was like, sold. I like Split already. I like Croatia already. Let me go check out Belgrade. Which he did. He spent a week, enjoyed. He came back. He reported back. He said, bro, he was right. And I was like, okay, you sure? But okay, you know what? Let me do that as well. So I went to Belgrade. I actually booked for only a weekend trip. Guess what? I ended up staying for 2 weeks. Now, for those who already know me and my brand, Travelsofmozzy, my main reason for traveling around the Balkan was actually due to finding love. Finding the person that I can spend my time with. Yeah, katastrofa, brott. Katastrofa. But toa e toa. Sometimes you gotta live for something, right? I fell in love with this girl, and 2 weeks ended up being a year. So I went back to Norway after 2 weeks, obviously. Quit my job, and then I said to myself, listen, work-wise, it's COVID. I don't want to work from home in Norway, which is cold, just depressing as it is. I saw the Balkan, how it is in Serbia in itself and how people were there. And I was like, you know what? I quit my job. I want to go down there. But obviously I did not quit without no money, right? So I had obviously savings that I can travel with. So I went down to Serbia, stayed there for a year. And that was one hell of a year. Even though it was COVID, Belgrade was open. I got to learn the cultures of the Serbs, the Serbians. Was beautiful, but then unfortunately, as everything ends, sometimes our relationship ended. And when our relationship ended, I couldn't stay there anymore. I had to find a different path. So I told myself, you know what? I went to Croatia, I went to Split, it was amazing. I had a good time. I went to Belgrade, had an even more good time. The nightlife in Belgrade in itself is just mad. It's crazy over there. And as a tourist, if you are listening today, I truly recommend for you to go check out Belgrade. So having done that, I had to escape from the breaking of my relationship with that girl. And I couldn't stay in Serbia anymore, because I always had to remember about her. So I decided, you know what, let me go to a new country. Now, I did not know where to go, but I know for sure I want to explore more of the Balkan. Okay? So I literally just opened up the map, Google Maps. I looked at where I was, which was Belgrade, and I looked at what was the closest thing to Belgrade. And I saw Macedonia. Now, I had never heard of Macedonia. I didn't even know it existed at all. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, interesting. And I did not do any research whatsoever. The only research I did was basically just find an apartment that I can stay in Skopje, which is the capital of Macedonia. So that's what I did. So I took the next flight, packed my things, and I went to Skopje. Now, I landed in Skopje. I decided, let me go check out the city. Nemo Jibo Pille. Like a desert. There was no one. So I was like, I'm going to stay here? I don't know. It's going to be a very difficult time. So I did what everyone do, try to find people. Now, I use Tinder to my own advantage, which is basically to get to know people. And as you guys know, I was in the Balkan to find love. So Tinder, you might disagree or agree here, but, I use Tinder to see if I can find someone that I can connect with.
Bro is searching for love through Tinder.
I know, but it's one way to find people. So that's what I did, and eventually I found this one person. We went out on a date. It was great. All of a sudden I realized, everyone in the Balkans smokes cigarettes, no matter where you are, inside, outside, whatever, always cigarette on, which was even like. Eventually I got to deal with it, even though I hated it the first time, because back in Norway, you can barely see anyone smoking cigarettes. You can barely see it at all, especially inside. Now, went on a date with her, went a couple times on a date. We connected. I fell in love again. And this actually got me to introduce to the Macedonian culture, right? I know, Persify, I know. Katastrofa. Again, this guy goes to a new country, falls in love with another girl. What could go wrong? So I did that initially, and we got together, and then my best friend back in Norway actually told me, listen, bro, you're traveling already, right? Why not just create content? And I was like, content? I'm not that kind of guy. For those, trust me, when I tell you this, I'm actually an introvert. I would rather just stay home and just be myself and watch a movie and relax and do nothing, right? Or work hard on my projects, whatever. I am not the kind of guy that goes out and, get to know people. But once you travel, sometimes you gotta get out of your own comfortable zone, especially if you want to get to know new cultures, get to know new people. So he kind of convinced me, and also had a kind of challenge for myself, which was basically to grow my social media. So back then I had around like 4,000 followers, and then initially I started creating content. And my first content, do you know what that was, Persify? I don't think you do.
No,
Do you?
no, I don't think I know.
No. No, okay. My first content was actually how it is to be with a Macedonian girl. No. How it is to have a Macedonian girlfriend. That's what it was. Right. And that's like way back. I don't think you can find it, but if you scroll all the way down to on my TikToks or on my Instagram, you can find it. So that's what I did, right? I created 3 episodes of it. And did that blow up? It did indeed. It did. The first video was actually about how people in Macedonia, or actually in the Balkan in general, do not put their seatbelts when they drive around. I found that being very like, what? Šta? You know? And so I had to record it and comment about it. So that blew up. She saw that it blew up. She was like, okay, listen, bro, you need to stop recording me. I don't want to get no fame around me, you know? I have it hard as it is. So I couldn't do that anymore, so I had to come up with a new idea. And the new idea was, you know, since I'm not with my family, and my family is always asking me, like, Mozzy, what are you doing in the Balkan? Like, why are you wasting, like, you know, are you okay? You know, keep asking me questions. So I thought, you know what, maybe it's a good way to show what I'm doing also to my family, so they can see what I'm doing in Macedonia. So I started doing some food reviews and also showcasing certain areas of Skopje. And that actually kind of also went well to a certain length, up until I gained like 30 kilos, 40 kilos, because of all of the bureks and all of the yogurt and, you know, ajvar, katastrofebre, lelle. So after like, I think like 30 episodes of that, I had to, you know, do quits. And that was, I think, around a year into it. And then I decided, you know what else can I do? You know, because these 2 things actually worked for me. And then I realized, because one thing I realized while being in the Balkan was that people, you know, when they were speaking, their sentences, I was trying to learn the language itself, and the sentences sometimes did not make any sense to me. Especially when you translate it towards English, right? And especially if you translate it with Google Translate, which is in itself catastrophe. So I had to, you know, talk about that as well. And I think my first video about that actually was Kako dane. And if you really translate it in English directly, it's how, yes, no. Because a lot of people use that sentences in the Balkan. And that blew up to... I think I got like a 1.2 million views or something on that video in itself, and that was crazy. And so yeah, so that was like a year and a half ish into my stay in Macedonia. So my actual fame actually started, and it was because of the Macedonian people, how they enjoyed my videos and how they enjoyed how I showcased the country itself, and that kind of gave me even more motivation to do more for Macedonia. Now, unfortunately, again, I had a breakup with my girlfriend, my ex, in Macedonia. So you know, what do Mustafa do? What do Mozzy do? He travels to another country. Yeah, I sure did. So, again, I opened up the maps, right? The Google Maps, my best friend. And I looked at what's the closest country to Macedonia. And then I saw Bulgaria on that one hand side, and then I saw Kosovo on the other hand side. Now, this time I did a little bit more research, right? And I saw what's the safest thing to me. Like now I've already realized, you know, actually it is safe for me to be in the Balkan. So far so good. But I wasn't really ready to get into something. So I decided to go to Bulgaria. I think I spent like three months there, and I hated it. Now, I've had a chat with a lot of different Bulgarians, and they told me Sofia is not a good city to go to. If you really want to explore the country itself, you need to go to other cities. I forgot the other cities. I think it's called Plovdiv. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I spent 3 months in Sofia, unfortunately, and I hated it. I don't know what it was. I think it was the people or something, because I didn't feel welcomed as much as I did in Macedonia. Also, if you compare Macedonia to Serbia, in my opinion, I actually felt more welcomed in Macedonia than I would ever be welcomed in Serbia. Even though Serbia was actually a great place in terms of being an African, if you know what I mean.
1 second, let's do a recap. You actually managed to go from Norway to Split, from Split to Serbia, fall in love, got your heart broken, left Serbia, went to Macedonia, fall in love again, started recording videos, reels and Instagram stories. In the meantime, you see that you're good at it, so you started doing that more oftenly by promoting Macedonian foods and cuisine, right? You gained 30 kilos, broke up with a girl again, left, went to live in another country, came back, left again, went to live in Bulgaria, went to live to Pristina, and then managed to come back here. You need to write a book, G.
Yeah, pretty much. Good summary right there. One thing that I forgot to mention there was basically, you know, during my stay in Macedonia, my savings actually diminished, right? So I had to somehow create income for myself to survive staying outside of my, Norway. And since I did not have a job, I had to create something out of it. Now, a lot of people ask me, do you make money out of social media? I did, but not at that specific time. At that specific time, it wasn't enough. I think I was getting like around 50 euros or something per content. And I wasn't even that much of a fame back then. So it wasn't really working. It was not easy to get money. So I had to come up with another way to make money. Right. So what I did was two things to create income for myself. One of them was I had to start a study. So I enrolled into a university in Norway, and they let you do the studies actually fully 100% online. And we have this great thing with the government where they pay you, if you need financing, they will give you financing for studying. Because the university was not free, so I had to pay a certain, fee for that, but also I had to maintain and get some books and stuff like that. So that was one way to get income. The other way that I could get income was to start my own company. Now, my background, for those who does not know, is within IT. So, IT consultants, to be specific, Salesforce is a CRM solution. So, I had that years of experience from my work, and I told to myself, let me start doing this, with my own company. So I started as a freelancer. I reached out to a lot of different companies, both in Norway, but also in the other countries that I've been to. And eventually I managed to lock down to 2 clients. And that kind of helped me to create an income for myself to do what I love to do, which was traveling, right? So I had that on the side, and that's how I kind of got to travel as much as I could. So my main source of income was actually from those two rather than the social media at that specific time. So then in Bulgaria, 3 months in there, did not enjoy it. I was actually mostly just working. I did not really create as much content as I did in Macedonia. So then I decided, and I did not find any love. Let's just make that clear. No love in Bulgaria. So 3 months was finished, and I decided, you know what, let me go to a new country now. So I decided to go to Kosovo, Pristina. And Pristina, wow. If I have to tell you something, I gotta tell you this, my friend, brate moj. Pristina was crazy. One thing I realized, there was actually more young people in the city than it was older generation. And I later learned that basically the city is actually people call it the student city. It's like a university, a big ass university where a lot of young people are. And so I stayed there for 3 months. I had some great times, but I also had some bad times. I actually once got robbed. I got robbed. Yeah. The story here was basically I was renting an apartment, a very nice condo, very cheap, 500 euros per month. Now I'm saying cheap because now I'm comparing this to Norway. Norway, you have to at least pay 1,000 euros, okay? So 500 euros was amazing. I signed a contract, all of that stuff. The only issue here is that the person that I was signing the contract with does not speak the language of English. And I don't speak Albanian, right? Because that's what they speak. So I had what I could do best. I had a girl, that I found on Tinder. I mean, what could go wrong, yeah? What could go wrong? Oh my days, everything went wrong. So I had this girl from Tinder. She was very nice, all that stuff. We dated a couple of times. And I asked her to help me, translate. So she did that. We signed the contract. I gave him the money. And then he gave, apparently, like, a small fee to her for some reason. I don't know why. I later learned that fact. And then, even though we had a contract, he told me to move out. Because either I pay more extra rent or I move out. Or there's a problem between me and him. And obviously I refused, right? He can't move out. And at that particular time I wasn't in Kosovo, I was abroad traveling. So I told him, listen, my stuff is in there. You're not going to, kick me out from this house. He refused. He took my things out. He put it in his van. And then later on, after a few weeks, I came back. He told me, it is what it is. Either you pay more or you have to move out. He said, listen, I'm going to take this up to the court and you will not win. And obviously, I think he's right. Because first and foremost, he speaks the language. I don't speak the language. And who can I trust? So eventually, I decided, to keep your money. Give me my things back, which he did. And I just moved out. And that was my story in Kosovo. After that, what happened, I came back to Macedonia, where I knew I was the most safest. So I wanted to stay longer in Macedonia to create more content for them. But there's an issue with visa. Even though I have a Norwegian citizenship, in the Balkan, you can only stay there for 3 months and then you have to move out. Yeah. Some people say, you can always just go to the border, get out and come in. But I tried that and it did not work at all. What I did was initially, I looked at the countries that I did not go to. And in this initial time, it was Bosnia and Herzegovina. I've actually never been there, but I heard a lot of great stuff about that country. And more specifically, I learned was that you have not tried good food unless you have visited Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now, I'm a big fan of food. I am. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I remember my first time coming. I landed, I went outside, I saw snow. I was like, snow, how is this even possible, Because I don't really enjoy snow at all. Because I've had too much of it in Norway. Because in Norway we have snow way too much. And we have a saying in Norway which is, we are born with skis. We are born with skis in our feet. Now, I got shocked about that, but then later I learned, Sarajevo used to be an Olympic city. I'm very bad with history, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm very bad with history, but I learned a lot by traveling. And I think that's the best way to learn about history, about culture, is when you're at the source and not from reading books. I decided to try something new, which was to do a collaboration with a rental company, which I did. Big shout out to Carwiz. They have actually always been there for me, even when I've been at the worst, when I had no financing. They've been there and helped me out do what I do best, which is traveling. So I did a collaboration with them, and thanks to them, I actually managed to travel around, I think it was like 23 cities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But let me tell you something about Bosnia and Herzegovina. The roads in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bože Gospode, that's all I have to say. The road is insane. Certain places are great, but certain places, the road are terrible conditions. So you actually need to have a good car to drive through the country. And also Google Maps is not a good friend at all. It will tell you this is a shortcut, but you will end up at the village, which I did a lot of times. So Bosnia and Herzegovina is a great story I can tell, but that will definitely take multiple different episodes, so I will not develop into it as much. But long story short, I managed to grow into the market as a content creator, and that went well. After 3 months, again, very sad again to leave, because you need more time to stay in the country to actually fully fully enjoy it. Even though 3 months was actually very amazing for me. I got to know the people, the culture, amazing people, I'm not gonna lie. They're very family oriented as well in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But unfortunately my time came to an end. And then, you know what I did. I actually first went back to Norway because I thought, that's it, what else can I do? Actually, it was because of my family telling me, that's it, you need to get your ass back to Norway. You've been out there for too long now. Which I did, and it didn't really last long. I think it lasted for like a month or something. And I had to come back to the Balkan. And the first country that I came back to was actually Macedonia, where I continued my journey. So if you can take something out of this storytelling, is that my brand, what I stand for, what this podcast will stand for, is about the Balkan. A lot of people have a specific type of view, towards the Balkan and each one of those different countries. And I've been there through Instagram and TikTok to showcase the beauty of each country individually. And this podcast will, be here to talk about my stories, which I haven't had the chance to share as much on these platforms. I want to share this exclusively on this podcast with me and Persify together. That's the end of this podcast, this pilot. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Coming up, the next couple of podcasts going to be about, we'll see, but it's going to be something very, very interesting. If you want to listening to this, it's going to be on both YouTube, on Instagram, and on podcasts. And it's going to be called the Balkan Talk Show. So thank you very much for those listening in. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see each other soon.